All right, so joining us live now, Ryan Fisher from the US Coast Guard. Ryan, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this morning. So can you give us the latest on the search?
Right, so the latest is the Coast Guard has suspended the active search for the missing passenger aboard the Quantum of the Sea. That decision is obviously a very difficult one, but we came to that decision after consulting with our Australian consulate partners here in Hawaii, as well as discussions with the family and the next of kin on board the Quantum of the Sea. So with all of that, and the Coast Guard made the difficult decision to suspend the search pending any new information.
Okay, well, that was my next point. When you say suspended, does that just mean cancelled? It's done?
It's more of an active approach. So, like I said, the statement pending any new information. So, if anything does come about, if someone is in the vicinity of the area and they do see something in the water, we are able to activate the search again. But of course, that's what I mean by pending.
Yeah. So when I know this is difficult for everybody involved, but I mean, the fact that it's cancelled, it could be anywhere, basically. I mean, is this a recovery? Would this have been a recovery operation now? I mean, the chances of rescue are so small.
Right. So it's a difficult thing to kind of put into words, I guess, where with our district here in the 14th district here in the Coast Guard, we operate with a majority of the Pacific. So that does pose challenges, those challenges being just the vastness of the Pacific here. So we really rely heavily on our partners here, whether they be federal, state. So we work as hard as we can. We actually worked alongside your Australian counterparts here. So it's more just putting all that information together and coming to those conclusions.
Well, how many assets? I mean, so you had a good 24 hours there, a pause presumably, so people could rest. But what sort of assets did you have out there?
So the Coast Guard C-130 is stationed out here in Air Station Barbers Point. It's the Coast Guard's airplane assets. So the case was about 500 miles south of the Big Island. So it's really our only asset that could get there in time, in a timely manner. So that's the asset that we deployed for the mission. And it was on scene at around 9 a.m. They deployed at 7 a.m. yesterday, got on scene at 9 a.m. And then they conducted about a 6-hour search. And it was over the course of 5 hours, at the end of that 6 hours, they had to return back for fuel constraints. And the intention was to pick up the search again today, but after, like I said, the discussion with the family, Australian consulate, and our command center here, the decision was made to ultimately suspend the active search.
Just on this, when it comes to the whys, the investigation of what happened, are you involved in that, Ryan? Can you shed a little more light on what may have happened?
As far as investigations go, I think it's a little bit tricky because it is a foreign vessel with a foreign man, but they were in the vicinity of U.S. waters. So I personally don't know who kind of takes the lead on the investigation, but the details of the investigation thus far, out of respect for the family, we aren't going to disclose anything like that because we want to give the family some time to process, and we want to allow them to make the decision to come forward with any information they feel.
Can you at least suggest whether it was an accident or whether it was sinister or anything of that nature?
I don't have that information at this time.
Okay.
But we don't suspect or really speculate on that kind of stuff at the moment.
Fair enough. I just want to also ask about, we had a maritime lawyer on the program last hour who pointed to the fact that a man overboard system was not on the cruise ship. How much of a concern is that for you, or is that kind of out of your area?
It's definitely out of my area, especially in terms of like the international side of things. I'm not sure. How I would go about
Sure,
that.
fine.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm putting a few questions to you, Ryan, that are out of your area this morning. But just a final one here. I mean, you pointed to this in the first answer, and you've had to suspend the search, so it's come to an end. But I mean, you're talking about an area that's that's very vast, that is way off the coast, the chances of finding are pretty slim here.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of that does play a part in the decision making with the command center here, as well as our partners. All sorts of assets and angles are taken into account. Anything from sea state, temperature of the water, to location, all of that kind of compiles in to make the decision.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you got currents involved too, right?
I'm sorry?
Currents, there are currents factors, all sorts of different factors, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, with the years and decades kind of doing our best to train and really kind of,
yeah,
I guess, work with our partners to get to where.
Just a final one here, Ryan. How common is this? That you have someone overboard, someone falls off a cruise ship. How often does that happen in the US?
In my personal experience, I've been out here in Hawaii for about 3 years. I've never, in my memory, dealt with a cruise ship with an accident like this. We do encounter fishing accidents from time to time, but I've never dealt with a case like this from the Australian side of things. So this is a first for me. But okay. I can't say whether or not this is the first for our command center.
Okay. Ryan Fisher, the US Coast Guard bringing us the latest there that the search has been suspended for that missing Australian who fell overboard that cruise ship yesterday. So appreciate your time. Thanks for the update.